Okay, welcome. This morning we're going to look at James chapter 5, and then also that's, of course, wrapping up the whole book of James. So this might get just a little bit longer. So if you need to hit pause and go get a cup of coffee, that's okay. James chapter 5 this morning. James chapter 5 has one warning and four encouragements. So we've called this final warning and encouragements. One warning, four encouragements. The warning is in verses 1 through 6. Now listen, you rich folks, weep and wail because of the misery that is coming on you. Your wealth has rotted, moths have eaten your clothes, your gold and silver are corroded, and their corrosion will testify against you. So, this is a warning to those who are trusting in worldly wealth. This, of course, picks up on what James talked about way back in chapter 1, verse 10, that those who are trusting in worldly wealth will be like a tender flower that when the rising sun comes up with scorching heat, it's going to fade. I made the mistake a couple days ago of putting my Christmas begonia out on the deck to get a little sun. I am now trying to rescue and revive my Christmas begonia. So this is James's warning about the fleetingness of wealth, which he warned us about back in chapter 1 in terms of a tender flower and the scorching heat. And now, again, he's warning us again, but using some different imagery. Moths have eaten your clothes, so that fine, wonderful, clean garment that we met back in chapter 2, that's now become eaten by moths. James obviously is looking ahead. He's visualizing the final judgment when all things will be tested. He says more particularly in verse 3, as this part of this warning, says, your gold and silver are corroded or rusted or tarnished, and their corrosion will testify against you. What does he mean by that? Well, of course, in the ancient world, a wealthy landowner would have the harvesters harvesting in the field, and then at the end of the barley harvest, he would take the barley to town, sell the barley. They would pay him in gold or silver, and he would then pay his workers in silver, once in a while gold, but mostly silver. He would pay them in silver, count all of those silver coins, and then those workers would count them again. They would take them into town. They would buy their supplies, so that silver would be handled again. So that silver would be in circulation, and it would therefore be shiny. When I wear this every day during the summer, I don't need to polish it. When I get it out at the end of the winter, I do need to polish it because it's been sitting in the drawer. Some of you used to have to polish the silver flatware for your mother or your grandmother. Not if you use it every day, but if you sit it in the drawer, you have to polish it. Okay, so that's the kind of background of what he's talking about here. And this wealthy landowner who had this gold and silver that he'd been paid for his barley and wheat, which should have been given to his harvesters. Instead, he said to his harvesters at the end of barley harvest, oh, I'll pay you after wheat harvest. And then after wheat harvest, he said, well, I'll pay you at the end of the year when olive harvest is done, when grape harvest is done. And meanwhile, this gold and silver is all in a sack under his bed, and it's corroding because it's not being circulated the way it's supposed to. That's what James means when he says, your corrosion on your silver will testify against you. It will testify about the fact that you have not paid your workers in a timely manner the way you were supposed to pay your workers. Okay, so that's the warning to the wealthy who are withholding the just payments that should be given to their workers. Then we go to encouragements, okay? First encouragement, verse 7 through 12, encouragement to persevere, encouragement to persevere. Be patient then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. This is partly how we know that James is writing from an agricultural perspective and to those who are primarily involved in agriculture or raising flowers or anything like that. Patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. You too be patient and stand firm because the Lord's coming is near. Again, the final judgment, the final accounting, the return of the Lord in glory, all of that feels very close to James in these troubled and intense times that he lives in. And he goes on then, verse 11, you have heard of the perseverance of Job. And probably some of you will know that the translations used to say, you've heard of the patience of Job. But then us readers kind of gave some pushback and said, patience of Job? He's not patient at all. He's arguing with God. He's contending with God. He's, expostulating with God. It's not patient at all. And so they wisely changed it. You have heard the perseverance of Job. Because Job is not patient in that sense that we think of in English as patient, calm, gentle, long-suffering. But he is perseverant. He's hanging on to his faith. He's hanging on to God. So there's an interplay here in this first encouragement, verses 7 through 11, encouragement to persevere. There's an interplay between patience and perseverance, endurance. Somehow just, even if you don't feel patient and calm, you can hang in there. And so, better translation now. You have heard of the perseverance of Job, and you have seen what the Lord finally brought about at the end of Job's life. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. Okay, so encouragement to persevere. Secondly, then, encouragement to an honest heart and a healthy tongue. Verse 12. Encouragement to an honest heart and a healthy tongue. Above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear, not by heaven or by earth or by anything else. All you need to say is a simple yes or no. And this, of course, is based on Jesus' teaching, Matthew chapter 5, verse 37. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. If we speak the truth in a simple and honest and forthright way, we will not have to backtrack later. We will not have to say, I was just kidding. We can speak the truth in a simple and honest way and just stand to it. So encouragement to an honest heart and a healthy tongue. Thirdly, then, encouragement to pray. Is anyone among you in trouble? Let them pray. Is anyone happy? Let them sing songs of praise. Is anyone sick? Call for the elders of the church to pray over them, anoint them with olive oil in the name of the Lord. So this, all of 13 through 18 is an encouragement to pray. Now the pattern here is for healing. James, of course, has talked about prayer back in chapter 1, verse 5. He comes back to this a little bit more about prayer. Interesting that he talks about a little bit about forgiveness and healing together. Forgiveness, the Lord lifting our sin, healing, Him lifting our sickness. Sometimes we need both. Think of the man in Mark chapter 2 who came through the roof, of course. But they are different. I mean, there are some times when it's healing that we need, not forgiveness. And sometimes it's just forgiveness, but often they're related, and it takes some discernment. It's interesting that our own Hector Avalos has talked a little bit. He's written actually a book about healthcare and the rise of Christianity. And Professor Avalos notices that the Christian healthcare system, as it's laid out here, is quite superior to the Greco-Roman system or to the Jewish system. In the Greco-Roman system, if you were sick, you made a long journey at your own expense to the temple of Asclepius, and you stayed there at your own expense, gave some gifts and some offerings, and then, hoped for some healing. So it's quite demanding from you in terms of time and expense. Jewish system, similar. Traditional Jewish system, similar in that you had a journey to the priest, or in some cases, journey to Jerusalem, to the temple, and bring offerings and sacrifices for your healing. And sometimes you just had to wait it out and then be certified. And then Professor Avalos correctly observes that the Christian system was much better in that the elders will come to you. So you don't have the journey, you don't have the expense, they will come to you. And he said this is part of the reason that Christianity succeeded. Every once in a while, even Professor Avalos gets something right. I want to notice, though, that it says, is anyone sick? Let the sick person call for or invite the pastor and the elders to come and pray with them. It doesn't say, skip church for 3 weeks and see if anybody notices that you're not there. It doesn't say, hope that by the way of the grapevine, the pastor will somehow figure out what's going on and come and visit you, or the elders will somehow figure it. It says you take the initiative to reach out to ask for the elders, the pastor, to come and to visit. This restores initiative to the sick person, what we sometimes call agency. And this is actually part of the restoration process, that the initiative is with the one who needs the prayer. They will anoint with olive oil in the name of the Lord. Oil, of course, being one of the medicinal things in the ancient world. You remember the Good Samaritan with wine and olive oil. Olive oil is also a symbol of the Spirit who is at work in these things. And we're very thankful today that providentially the Lord has allowed us to have amazing medical care. I have a friend who fell off a ladder with a chainsaw a few years ago, just devastated his wrist. Got it to the hospital. Dr. Buck put him back together. And after it was all over, Dr. Buck said, you just need to know that 50 years ago, that hand would have been completely crippled. 100 years ago, that would have been gangrene, and we would have cut it off. It's only in the very, very recent time that we've developed the medical ability to piece a wrist back together like we did yours. And all of this, too, is a gift of God and something to be thankful for. So encouragement to pray, and encouragement to use the providential things the Lord has given to us, and of course, pray for His blessing upon those people who are working so hard to help us get healthy and stay healthy. So encouragement to pray there, verse 13 through 18. Finally, verse 19 and 20, the fourth encouragement is encouragement to intervene. Encouragement to intervene. Brothers and sisters, if one of you should wander from the truth and someone should bring that person back, remember this. Whoever turns a sinner from the error of their way will save them from death and cover over a multitude of sins. This is again going back to chapter 1. Chapter 1, James talked about, or he warned about the being enticed and led astray. That leads to sin, and sin leads to death. It's almost like a commentary on Genesis 3 and 4, the pattern of temptation and enticement leading to sin and leading to death. And he talked about that in 1 verse 14. Now he comes back to that, and he says it's possible to arrest that process. It's possible to stop it and turn it around. It's possible that when we are sometimes going down that wrong road, or our brothers and sisters going down that wrong road, by the grace of God, we can be arrested, stopped, and turned around. And we'll be saved then from death, and a multitude of sins will be covered over by the grace of God. This is amazing. This is an encouragement. And in fact, this whole letter is James' effort to do this, to arrest people who are on a road of racial prejudice, to arrest them and stop them. People who are having loose and destructive tongues, to arrest them and stop them and put them on a better path. People who are trusting in worldly wealth, to arrest us and stop us and put us on a better path. So this whole letter really is a fulfillment of what James says here, that by the grace of God, God sometimes intervenes in our life, turns us around, and puts us on the right path. and that's his final encouragement. So thank you for joining us, and it's been good to be together for the book of James. God bless you.